What is going on, guys? Cinema World from Cinema Sessions here, back with another top list for y'all today, and continuing on my series of videos. Where I'm going to talk about my favorite shows from Disney Channel and Nickelodeon Cartoon Network, and I already did the ones at Disney Channel, and I also just done my, all the worst Nickelodeon shows. And now we're going to talk about what I think are the absolute best Nickelodeon shows, which, I grew up with this network watching these shows so often, so I still look back on very fondly, even with the weird applications with some of these shows. It's definitely a little weird to be doing this list considering what happened to Nickelodeon. But nonetheless, I still hope you'll enjoy the list. In fact, there actually was so many good shows that I remember. I was like, let's do a top 15 instead. So yeah, instead of top 10, I'm doing a top 15 because there are so many good shows that Nickelodeon has done. So let's expand it a little bit. We're doing a top, so this is one thing on my top 15 best Nickelodeon shows. Again, these are shows that I have watched all the way through, shows I have watched the entirety of. As always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take on what I think are the best Nickelodeon shows. Again, I did do the worst. You guys want to check that video out. And I would love to know what you think are your favorites down below. Again, always, this is just my personal opinion. And I would always love to know your favorites down below. So, got 50 shows to talk about, but as always, before we get to the top 10, we're now going to get to the honorable mentions. Shows I do love, they just did not end up making the actual list. And the honorable mentions are 100 Days to Jubilo High School, Side Hustle, Victorious, True Jackson BP, Doug, Angry Beavers, Cat Dog, The X's, Shock Zone, The Loud House, As Told by Ginger, El Tigre, Back in the Barnyard, iCarly, and the show that unfortunately just barely missed my list, and I'm not sure anyone's gonna be happy about this. Rugrats, yeah. Again, it was definitely a pain to have like that show off this list, but again, I guess that is just my personal list, but all these shows are still great, they just did not make the actual list, which is why I expanded to top 15 in the first place. But let's get to the list, shall we? Now, kicking off the list at number 15, we have The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for the show, and I always went back to watch random scenes very often, honestly. Again, it's a show, the show that's based on a popular movie that came out, and then, yeah, I would make a successful TV series out of it. Well, yeah, the animation can feel a bit dated, honestly, but it's always the charm of the characters that always elevates it. The crazy situations they're getting into with Jimmy being like too smart for his own good sometimes, and hilarious antics of Carl and Sheen, and they're great back and forth throughout the season, throughout the show. The little back and forth between Jimmy and Sydney throughout the show. Libby having some pretty hilarious moments. The villains are pretty well memorable, especially Calamitous. Calamitous, it's just consistently hilarious, consistent charming, and there's really no any reason why it's not number 15. Because I think some of the shows are either better or just a little more consistent, but Jimmy Neutron is still a great show. And now we get to another animated show, and spoiler not the only animated show you'll see on this list. And then more team we get to one of the cult classic, and that is Invader Zim. And Invader Zim is going to get somewhere onto this list. It definitely was a bit up in the air where I was going to rank this, but the show that only has like 2 seasons. There's a reason why Invader Zim still is fondly remembered. It's a show that was very creepy and very eerie, but in the best possible ways. The characters are very compelling and interesting. The humor is just top notch. The animation is great, though too great is often as well as show being canceled, which again, thankfully we got the TV movie years later, which I think is a very satisfying conclusion to this show. All around, the characters are very well developed and interesting. They're crazy back and forth. Again, the creepiness and eeriness makes it really stick out amongst most Nickelodeon shows. It's a show that I do go back to very fondly. Went back very fondly. I do go back to. And speaking of classic shows that are canceled, at number 13 we have Cat Scratch. Now I'm sure you remember what Cat Scratch. No, this is probably the most, I think, underappreciated show on this list. It's a show I remember watching very fondly and constantly when it was airing. But it doesn't know it involves like 3 cats, Golden the Waffle and Mr. Blink, as they basically end up being like very rich cats and everything after their owners pass away. They end up giving them their inheritance. And it leads to all the misadventures of them being rich and them learning lessons and all that stuff. It's a very charming show, honestly. show that you just can't help but smile and laugh at a lot of shenanigans they go through, especially how crazy some it can be. I would say just watch the show for yourself, wonder how crazy the show can be. And well, and while they're not the most likable kids in the world, Mitch Blake especially can be a kind of a rough at times. The voice acting and the charisma of the actors really do bring them, still make them very entertaining. And one thing I've always noticed about Nickelodeon shows is that they always seem to do incredibly well with the side characters. Like, some of the side characters are so good they end up like being like the mainstays, or they end up being like better than the actual main character. Victoria's being like the prime example of that. Where I'm someone that doesn't hate Tori, but and then going with the other characters really do obviously are much better and much more interesting and compelling and crazy and wacky, but in the best possible ways. And Cat Scratch is also an example. Yeah, but we do have a bunch of cast, especially the butler, who has very talky remarks and some pretty hilarious moments throughout. Human Kimberly, who Jordan has a crush on. Like, it's a pretty hilarious show with great supporting characters, and so I know Nickelodeon seems to do very well at, and Cat Scratch is no exception. So yeah, if you haven't checked Cat Scratch, I would definitely recommend it. It only has like one season, and I do recommend catching it. It's a very fun and charming show. I'm not going to watching it after watching this, filming this video. And now we're going to another animated show. Yeah, several just been animated shows I've been talking about, but and Nickelodeon also does more animated shows sometimes, but they're doing pretty well, but when no, doing a bit. And number 12, we have Rocko's Modern Life. Now, I definitely debate what else for the show was going to be on this list. I knew the show was going to be somewhere on the list. Again, but guys, this list wasn't easy to do. This list was not easy. But Rocko's Modern Life, again, I'm pretty sure at least y'all do know this show. It's a very charming show with very interesting characters, very zany, crazy humor. Then one of the first things I learned the show is to explain the humor that it does, and it does it in a very clever way. We get supporting characters, really interesting storylines, and just a very charming and great group of characters. They just can't help but be connected to. So, I'm pretty sure that's all I can say about the show, but it is still worth watching if you haven't. And now we go to actually another underappreciated animated show, and that is Harvey Beaks at number 11. Looking back on this show, I totally forgot how good this show actually was. Unfortunately, Nickelodeon was in a state where if a show is not as successful as like SpongeBob, it basically means it's just kind of dead, honestly, no matter how popular the show is, honestly. Like, Lighthouse is probably the only other show that has gotten even close to the success of SpongeBob. To where even if the show is like at least good, if it's not as successful as that show, it's getting canned. That's unfortunate with it's fortunate that Nickelodeon seems to have, unfortunately. But Harvey Beaks is still a great show. This is actually from the creator of Chowder, which is the Cartoon Network show that, spoiler, you definitely will see on that best list when I do that. And you definitely still feel that Chowder influence, not with the much full fall breaks, but much with the zany humor, the crazy situations. And the other characters that are just in general very likable, very entertaining, very enjoyable to watch. Now, end up being very distinct. It's one of the shows that does take a bit to get going, but once it does, it really kicks in high gear. And it's just a very overall charming show that, if you guys not checked out, I actually do recommend. Now, kicking off the top 10, we have a show that I'm surprised actually ended up making the list in general, because most of the time shows don't usually have much success, but in the end, it's a show that I still remember following. That is Penguins of Madagascar. Again, a show that obviously is a spin-off show of the Penguins from Madagascar movies, which also did based with the Minions before the Minions, I think. But they got the biggest to get out of the Madagascar movies. And I'm actually surprised at how well the show still holds up. I mean, the animation's not the best, but what makes the show work is really the colorful cast of characters. Like, the Penguins are still very distinct, fun, and likable, and enjoyable to watch. They'll actually have interesting conflicts, really back and forth between each other. The Mitchell's always pretty fun. King Julian's a pretty interesting character. At least with how hilarious and stupid he can be. More than the Feefash can be a bit much, but it's still hilarious. Maurice, Marlene, Alice, and a lot of different characters that they introduced are pretty well done. It's a show that I don't think really has hardly had a bad episode or a true miss. It's a show that's consistent, hilarious, and very enjoyable. It's a show that just puts a big smile on our face when we come back to it, and that alone puts it in the top 10. Now we finally get to the first live-action show on this list. Like, I don't even know like how many animated shows were on this list actually. I think most live-action shows actually, I think the most of them may be in my own mentions, but Yeah, I didn't realize how much animated shows are on this list, but finally get to the first live action show on this list. With number 9, we got Kenan and Kel. They bought the first true successful live action show this is show that Nickelodeon, I'm still sure why, but Nickelodeon has done, and what can I say about Kenan Thompson himself? Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell are two of the most iconic comedic duos ever. They have so much incredible chemistry with each other, and you really feel throughout the show. It kind of sets the template for a lot of sitcom templates that you expect from Nickelodeon, but it's definitely one of the best examples of that. I don't know if about Shadow Ripset. It's still colorable and hilarious to this very day. But now, we get to the show, the number one, and truly, well, this list definitely wasn't easy. I kind of already knew what number one is going to be. Hell, I'm pretty sure you guys probably know what number one is going to be, honestly. But number one is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Which honestly, if I wasn't counting reality shows, like I think Survivor I would say my favorite show of all time. If I wasn't counting reality shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender would be my number one. I am dead serious. It's a show I always make mission to rewatch at least once every year. A lot of the episodes never get old. A lot of the episodes pulled constantly. Has so many incredible lines, so many incredible words. Like, do I even need to mention why the show number one? Do I need to explain it? It's still one of those iconic shows to this very day, and for damn good reason. When it comes to the world building, the characters, the storylines, the character arcs, the redemption of Kazuko, the comedic elements, like, it's one of the shows I don't think it has any bad or anything wrong to really say about it. Honestly, it's a show that I hold dear to my heart. It's a show that has some of the best storytelling in any form of media, and I'll always hold the show dear to my heart because all that. And I can't ever see what they do with these characters and these storylines and later on down the road, and I'm definitely going to be here for it. Definitely. But yeah, back to more animated shows, and not the first animated show because but anyways, at number 8, we got Danny Phantom. Of course, Danny Phantom was going to make it somewhere on this list. I wasn't sure where exactly Danny Phantom was going to be on this list, but I knew somewhere it was going to be, and I always have a soft spot for the show. I think the only reason why the show is the highest that some episodes of the third season not the greatest, and I don't think it ends the best, I'm not gonna lie. But you know, I probably enjoy those episodes more than most people, though I can clearly understand why season 3 was a disappointment. But the first two seasons I think are fantastic, the characters are interesting and fun, the villains, the supporting cast of the villains are fantastic and very well integrated. Again, great job supporting cast, great storylines, great relationships, great back and forths, very great action set pieces, and some actually pretty touching moments and heartwarming moments that happen throughout the show. So it's a show I do remember incredibly fondly, and a show I constantly go back to and quote, and it's a show that I just love to get back to because of the characters and the situations. And there's a reason why the show still has a dedicated fan base to this very day. And now we get to the top tier. Really, my top 2 shows I would put in my top 5 shows of all time. I am dead serious. My number 2 being Drake and Josh. Yeah, it's kind of what happens to Josh. It's very weird to talk about the show nowadays. But I will always hold a soft spot for Drake and Josh. I will always hold a near deep in my heart for this show. For a lot of different reasons. Like, Drake and Josh is just a very hilarious show. It's a very simple show where the two become brothers, and this is what's Drake Bell and Josh Peck, who basically were all that in the name of the show. They build the show together. And 20 years later, I think the show holds up pretty wrong and has some things that not only age the best, and some storylines they probably wouldn't make much sense, but what elevates the show again, all the characters, especially the chemistry between Drake Bell and Josh Peck. Has so many memorable scenes and horrible lines. Again, I always do the hug me, brother, to my brother all the damn time. And I still do to this very day. But it's a show that it's one of those very good shows. Like, it's kind of weird to watch right now, considering you know what happens to some of these actors. But it's a show that eats my head out. I can still watch and still just feel comfortable and still feel snuggy and just enjoy a lot of situations they get into, and a lot of the back and forth and how they solve everything. And it's a show that just puts a big grin on my face. Again, there are so many cool lines that I just really enjoy. Now we are in the top 3, and truly, this was probably my definitive top 3, honestly. These are the 2 shows I think are the true definitive Nickelodeon shows, in my opinion. So, at number 3, we have Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Again, so the show based has like similar to Become, like I mentioned earlier. Those was done before Pretend Rush. It's been very zany, crazy with the characters, and it's like very over the top actually with the sound effects. Like it goes, those shows go hard with the sound effects, but it's used very effectively and used very nicely as well, to where it doesn't feel like too much or too annoying. The characters are very likable and interesting. The acting is great. This is a show based on someone basically having a guy to basically try to go to middle school, and a lot of the stuff here is actually very relatable stuff that I feel like actually be helpful to like anyone. Like it's not like a very exaggerated situation. It's just more normal school stuff and life stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, very relatable stuff. Very relatable. And the characters are great, supporting characters are great, it's hilarious, charming, and it's also one of the most hilarious shows I've ever seen in my life, and a show that just also holds a special place in my heart. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be a hot take that I put the show above SpongeBob. Again, that's just more on the instant quality. I think some aspects of SpongeBob that are better in the show, but if I'm talking about a show that has overall quality, I'm putting Big Time Rush at number 4. Yes, I'm putting Big Time Rush. Again, it could be a little nostalgic because I watch the show so much when it was airing, and I watch the show constantly. And I'd say this is definitely one of the best sitcom they've had. Well, it's still the best sitcom, at least in the last like 10, 15 years on Nickelodeon. I don't think any Nickelodeon sitcom has gotten close to this type of show. Again, I believe this is actually also it's probably the second live action show on this list. When most of the shows are animation, so I just not realize until I actually looked. I was like, yeah, Nickelodeon really killed in the animation game. I wish I didn't out there. Nickelodeon really does, but anyways, Big Time Rush, a show about 4 hockey brothers, Kendall, James, Carlos, and Logan, who basically end up becoming a boy band. 4 seasons of crazy, amazing mayhem, insane, and also from the same guy who did Nash Classified, that you really can tell still the humor in this show. You can really tell a lot of the humor in this show. It's kind of similar to that type of humor with the zaniness or over topness, but it does work. It does stand out. The 4 brothers do have the 4 actors do have incredible chemistry. This part has one of the best supporting casts in any Nickelodeon show, with the insane back and forth between a lot of the actors and characters. The scene they're getting to is great, but the animation have great homely moments, some of the best acting moments in a Nickelodeon sitcom, and the music still fucking slaps. The music here is still absolutely something I still listen to this day. And hell, the fan base is still going strong with the fact that obviously fans everybody's got back together and they actually make a movie, if I remember correctly. I think I remember that being announced at some point, which I'm definitely excited to see what I'm going to do with these other kids. Which honestly, I'm not surprised. It doesn't honestly with their iCarly, so it makes sense right there with the show. But as a whole, Big Time Rush is a show that will always hold a special place in my heart. Now, in the top 5, people, and coming in at number 5. Not sure whether people are going to be happy or upset that this show is only number 5. But number 5, I have SpongeBob SquarePants. Yes, I have SpongeBob SquarePants that's just reached the top 5, but it's not making any higher. As I mentioned before in this video, basically if you're a show that's not successful in SpongeBob, you basically can't. The only shows that are able to do that with Fairly Parents and The Loud House. I don't think any shows even come close to SpongeBob. I don't think those shows even come close. They just managed to obviously reach the quality levels, though there are also shows that kind of went downhill, which is why The Loud House is the only honorable mention. I don't think and like Fairly Parents, I don't think The Loud House ever recovered. But that's a story for another day. But what can I say about one that hasn't already been said? It's going to turn 25. It's turned 25 this year, so that's still going to this very day, for better or for worse. We all agree the first 3 seasons are still iconic and classic, and some later ones are like very up and down quality, where I think some seasons are like great and some episodes are great, but then some are just kind of bad and terrible. And now we're in a state where basically they're kind of like in most other shows that go on for so long, they just have episodes that just reference the good old days. They pretty much have episodes that just reference the good old days. And last time they make notes around to a supporting character, if I remember correctly. In those episodes that you referenced The Rock, the pioneers of Rock for Pizza Delivery. And yeah, I haven't seen those much episodes recently, but that's what I've seen from the YouTube channel, correct me if I'm wrong. But SpongeBob is still an iconic show. It's still iconic for a good reason. I mean, again, those first seasons are still iconic for a reason. Again, it's definitely the up and down qualities why it only puts it number 5, but the quality is still great enough to where it manages to still reach the top 5. And now we get to an unfortunate underrated show on this list, and that is My Life as a Teenage Robot. A show that basically got the wrong end of a deal when it was airing, honestly. the scheduling and everything, and another show that got canceled because it wasn't reaching the highs of SpongeBob. But I always had a soft spot for My Life Teenage Robots. I watched some scenes and episodes like, oh my god, I forgot how good this show is. Maybe from the good animation, the very likable characters, the situations they would get them into, which can be a very likable, interesting character who basically acts like a teenage girl, but the charisma of the voice actress makes her very likable and, well, honestly, very relatable. The action scenes are still great, and the specials that crew are still fantastic. The villains, the supporting cast are all really well done. There are certain episodes I still remember super fondly and super like, oh, I remember this scene, I remember this moment. And it's just overall show with just so much charm and charisma together, but still look back on very fondly, which I always do. So yeah, it just misses top 5, but still a show that is worth watching. Now, coming in at number 7, a show that really should be a bit low on this list, but it's on show whether the good seasons are great, and that is the original, The Fairly Odd Parents. Again, this is a show that I used to watch constantly growing up. Like, I remember waking up in the morning and watching the show every single day I would get for school. I remember watching the show and playing the show to no end, at least in the first 3 seasons, which I think a lot of us can be still to be like the true good seasons of Fairly Odd Parents, and for good reason. Like, he has a great concept about Timmy being so miserable that he basically needs fairies to help him for his everyday life. And a lot of shenanigan situations they will end up getting into. It was a show that's still pretty consistently entertaining, very hilarious, and very charming in general. And I still enjoy first season. I'm someone that probably enjoys the latest season of the show, even though I do see a lot of realizations on the characters with Cosmo and Wanda. I still enjoy some of the later seasons. Again, it could be nostalgia talking, but I enjoy the later seasons. Though I can admit them in the season 9 and 10 are, and maybe season 8 to an extent, are pretty abysmal seasons. Like, season 10 especially being one of the worst seasons of television I've ever seen in my life. Which kind of made the debate why I should put this as high up as on this list, but the charm of the previous seasons, the characters, and the memories and nostalgia do put this season up at number 7. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed me discussing what I think are the top 15 best Nickelodeon shows in my opinion. I would love to know down below in the comment section, what are your favorite Nickelodeon shows? I would definitely love to know down below in the comment section. Again, the last one will be talking about favorite Cartoon Network shows, so stay tuned for next one very soon. As always, thank you so much for watching, I truly honestly appreciate it. I am Cinema World from Cinema Positions. I will see you next time as always. Stay cool, everybody. Peace.